Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of a Darko audio podcast. Again, I'm joined by Srajan Ebaen. Welcome back, Srajan.
Hi, John. Good to see you.
And today, Srajan, as normal, we're going to plough the fields of press releases that have come across our collective desks in the last couple of months, but try and dig deeper under the surface, I think, for, I guess, hidden morsels of information.
Well, let's try.
This episode is brought to you by AudioQuest. The cable company believes great audio performance begins with great power. Visit audioquest.com for more information.
Actually, I've cribbed your idea. You know how you do the show and tell and go, John, tell me what you see?
Yeah.
2 of my 3 items today are going to be like that. So we're going to have to keep in mind the people that are listening and not viewing. Now, we're not starting with one of those. We're starting with something a little bit more abstract, and that is the rollout or the imminent rollout of lossless audio via Spotify. Now, this was announced a couple of weeks ago, and I've got to say, right out of the gate, before we get into the specifics, the response has been somewhat underwhelming, because normally I would anticipate my web traffic to explode with news like this, and it did not. Even Qobuz Connect announcement gave me a better traffic bump than this did. And even over on Patreon, people were like, meh, was the general response to it.
Like, too little too late, huh?
I think so, yeah, because it was it was rumoured 8 years ago. It was officially teased 4 years ago with a video with Billie Eilish and Finn. And now it's sort of here. It's coming to, in air quotes, select markets at no extra charge to premium subscribers. So if you pay for your Spotify, it's going to come your way for no extra money. And what it means is that the entire Spotify catalog will be available to you as lossless audio. So that means it's not lossy compressed. So for those people that don't know, in fact, I saw a video made by a hi-fi manufacturer last week. He was ranting about Spotify, and he made 2 key mistakes. He said that Spotify was MP3, and it's not. It's Ogg Vorbis, or was until the lossless rollout anyway. So they use a codec called Ogg Vorbis. And then he said, well, they throw away 96% of data, which is a very Neil Young approach to what are essentially psychoacoustic codecs. So yes, you only get 4% of the original file, or thereabouts, or 10%. I think in the case of 320 kilobits per second, which is the highest rate of Ogg Vorbis, you're
75%.
You're getting, well, probably about 40%, maybe, because it's 320.
Yeah. I mean, you're losing about 75%.
Right. But it's 75% of the information that the codec thinks you will, or we as humans won't notice.
Yeah, right.
And so that's really important. So yeah, it does sound a little bit worse, but I think to most people, especially when you're using, for example, Apple AirPods Pro, as I do, you're just not really going to notice it. You're just not. So lossless audio only really sort of comes into its own when you've got a nice pair of headphones, decent DAC-ish. And I would say the hardware is far more important than what you're feeding it, which is a controversial opinion, I know, but I think you've got to have the hardware that will resolve those differences before those differences can matter to you. Would you agree with that, Srajan?
Kind of. But I would also say that I have Spotify. Let's say I had it.
Okay.
Because I bought it from my wife, Yvette, whose office was on the other side of the house, so we could both listen to music without disturbing each other, right? Mm-hmm. And then I let it expire. And then when this news came out that lossless was going to come, I checked on my account and it was still active, right? Except
your account was still active, yeah.
My account was still active. The password had been deactivated. I had to renew that. I had to download a new interface. The old one no longer worked. And then I checked whether lossless was available yet in Ireland. It's not. Supposedly, it will roll out by the end of October. However, I took the opportunity to check into 320 kilobits per second, rather than the 1411 of CD quality. And over my system, not headphones, speakers, nice DAC, nice amplifiers, after about 5 minutes, I can't really enjoy it.
Right.
And it's not just the sound, it's a little bit more that is not satisfying. It's like eating junk food.
It is, yes, a little bit, yeah.
You might initially feel satiated, and it might even taste good because it's all fat and salt and sugar. But then after 5 or 10 minutes, you don't feel like energized or revitalized. In fact, you feel like your system is starting to now having to work through all of that junk. And you basically feel sorry that you ate the junk food. Well, that's how this 320 kilobit per second, the highest available quality up until now, in lossless premium, which is already extra, to me it's not listenable. I mean, it's listenable if I want to surf for music that I want to buy.
Right.
But it's not something I could listen to for longer than 10 minutes and actually feel satisfied. And I have Cobas Sublime, so I can compare CD quality or 2496 on Cobas versus 320 kilobits per second on Spotify. And I'm sorry, those people that say they don't hear the difference, either they don't know what they're listening to or for, or they have, like you said, hardware that is not yet up to the resolution requirements.
Agreed. Yeah.
That would actually show you.
Right.
But if you do have the hardware, then yes, there is a difference, whether you throw away about 75% of data, especially when the music becomes
complicated
and
dense.
And when it is overly compressed. Spotify makes that even worse. Because compressed already means that you can sort out fewer layers and details. It's all sort of like mucked together, right? Now Spotify throws away 75%, and what you're left with is like, you can't discern any details. It's just solid. At least that's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I would generally agree. Like I say, with AirPods Pro, with an Apple iPhone and those, I can happily listen to it. It's fine. Although I do choose to use Apple Music's lossless service, which does do high res, as does Tidal's, as does Cobas's, and therein lies the rub in two different ways, right? So I think the muted response to this has been because the mainstreamers who would say, well, they don't hear the difference, well, they're not going to care, right? They're just going to go, well, like my data limits on my account are more important to me, so I'm going to keep streaming 320 because I can't hear a difference. It's not worth it. Or the second half of the market are people like you and I, so we're audiophiles. We listened for the smaller shit. We've already got lossless streaming. We've got it from Cobas, Tidal, Apple. I mean, even Deezer does CD quality.
And we've had it for years.
Yes, we've had it, Tidal is 10 years now? Maybe a bit longer. Cobas probably just as long. Apple Music only since 2021. So I think anybody that wanted lossless streaming probably would have got it a long time ago. So you're only really picking up the new people that are coming into the market, kind of wanting to stream something of high quality. One thing I found that was really curious with this announcement was that Spotify said that lossless audio, yes, it's all going to come down the pipe in FLAC. So that's a variable bit rate between 700 kilobits per second and maybe 11 or 12, which is why it won't fit down a Bluetooth pipe. And then it's going to be encoded as 24-bit 44.1. My best guess is that 24 bits means they're just going to be padding the original 16-bit file with an extra 8 bits for volume attenuation or something like that. I don't really know. Have you got any ideas on that? It just seems very odd.
Not really. I don't know what you do to get from 16, 44.1 to 24, 44.1, and then what the benefits are.
Well, if you think of it from a practical point of view, from Spotify's point of view, there's no way they're going to commission every record label or artist to supply them with a new master or a new version of the original master at 24 bits, right? They're just going to take what they've got at 16 bits and pad it. I'm sure they're going to do that. Otherwise, it would take them years to get everything covered off.
Unless they had everything in 24-bit all along.
Maybe, but that's
possible, right?
It's possible, but I would still say it's unlikely. But I do like the fact that they haven't gone all the way to sort of high-res audio, because as we know, when you factor in high-res audio supply, it's only, say, between 5 and 10% of all that's available in CD quality. Right. And probably Spotify know that if they say, well, we're doing lossless, we can give you everything in CD quality. Whereas when we talk about high res, we're down to like, you know, a wafer, a sliver of that, like 5-10%, which is for most people looking at that announcement. And if they see that and they know that, they'll be like, well, why would I bother with that? It's only 5-10%, which is why my reservations still exist about high res audio. The supply is not there.
Right.
I guess we should also mention, and I can read from the press release here, it says Lossless is rolling out gradually to more than 50 markets through October. And those markets are Australia, Austria, Czechia, Denmark, Germany, Japan, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Portugal, Sweden, the USA, and the UK. So apparently some of those have already started to get access. That list that I've just read is just the starting set. And I guess after that it'll be to the rest of the world. But I guess we also have to think about, and this comes up a lot in my YouTube actually, a lot of people tell me, oh, like I can't get Apple Music where I live, or I can't get Qobuz where I live. So those two lossless services are not available to me. Whereas Spotify will make it available everywhere, right? I mean, they have greater global penetration than most services. But I guess, I'm just, I don't know. I was very confused at the lack of enthusiasm amongst my audience for this. But not confused. I guess just thought, well, that's fair enough if it's too little, too late. But we should also talk about Spotify Connect.
Well, before we do that, I'd like to add that the thing that I enjoy about Spotify is the user interface.
It is very good.
I actually like it better than Qobuz.
Agreed.
And I also can find music on Spotify that I can't find on Qobuz.
Exactly. Yes. The
that
library's
is like,
bigger. Yeah.
That's when you're like doing your weekly or bi-weekly shopping, right? You can't get everything at one shop. You sort of know that the good stuff is over there,
right.
But then certain items you have to go somewhere else. It's kind of like that.
So you have to go to Whole Foods and Walmart. You have to go to both.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been my kind of, the bone I have to pick with Qobuz is it doesn't have everything. Whereas
Right.
Apple Music generally does, and Apple Music has some stuff that Spotify doesn't and vice versa. But they're sort of fighting at the fringes, really. But yeah, Spotify Connect, right? So that's where you hand off a stream from your phone to the Spotify Connect on, say, in your streaming DAC, your streaming amp, right? Now, what that is that's another instance of Spotify running on that device. It's like what you have on your phone minus the UI. So any version of Spotify can play to another one, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. But that's not true with Lossless, I don't think. And the press release is hazy about this, but I've seen a couple of manufacturers put out statements on Facebook saying, we were meant to get the new version of Spotify that supports Lossless for Spotify Connect in our devices, but we haven't got it yet. We don't know why. We'll update you soon, right? So not all Spotify, let's call them receivers, right? Spotify Connect receivers are yet operational for lossless content. Some will come online as they get their, I don't know whether it's a certification or a download. I've got no idea how it gets implemented, but it's clearly not all Spotify Connect installations are built equally. In fact, when the first announcement came out in 2021, one streaming amplifier manufacturer emailed me going, John, just so you know, our Spotify Connect is lossless ready. So whether something is lossless ready, that's my term, not Spotify's, I don't know. So you'll have to try it to see what comes out. But I should also add that just because you're seeing 1644 on the readout of your streaming DAC doesn't necessarily mean it's lossless. Because OGG Vorbis 320 is still PCM data but compressed. So when it's read by the DAC, it will still present as 1644.1. Does that make sense?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it won't come up as 320 because a lot of the streaming DAC, streaming amplifiers aren't programmed to do that. Some of them are. So your Eversolos, your WIMs, things like that will show you the bit rate of a lossy stream. But the more, I guess that the devices with more basic displays that just show like 2496 or 1644 When you've got lossy Spotify, it will show 1644.1.
As
So
the
you-
lowest that they can display, right?
Pretty much, yes. So you need to know that you've got. If you want to know you've got lossless, the information is going to be in the app. If it's not in the app, you haven't got it, right? If there's no explicit mention of lossless in the settings where you go for you specify the audio quality, you don't have it yet. Because one of my patrons got tripped up by this, and I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, so
Mine reads in Spotify Premium. It reads quality very high. And
That's
what they mean by very high is 320, which
Exactly.
is ridiculous.
It's
It's
an obfuscation, isn't it? It's
It
like,
is.
well, we're not going to tell you exactly what this means. But I think it's also so it doesn't confuse your average consumer. Because your average consumer does not want to see 320 kilobits per second of Vorbis, because they'll be like, what the hell is that?
right.
So they want to just go, okay, very high, right? Whatever that means. So,
Then where do you go beyond from very high? What
well, you go even higher.
ultra high?
Well, I think it does say lossless
Yeah, that's what it will say.
in the app. But I quit my Spotify subscription at the start of this year.
Well,
So-
you do Tidal and you do Apple and
Yeah, Cobas.
you used to do Cobas, but I think you dropped
No,
it, right?
I used to do it. I dropped it, but I've got it again because some of my patrons wanted playlists in Cobas, and I kind of felt a bit sorry for them that I wasn't providing that. So
Right.
I've got Cobas again. I won't do Amazon Music. I've explained why on the website, because basically when I did a poll, only 6% of people used it on my YouTube and on my Patreon, roughly between 6 and 10%, right? So it's just not enough for me to worry about covering it. But I think if I ever went to another lossless service, I would check out Deezer, because it's another French service. It's lossless. It's not high res, but the only reservation I have is that I don't know whether they have a Connect service. And for me, a Connect service is really important for what I do for just my own enjoyment and for my job. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Deezer.
It's a very low-key service, isn't it? But it has more subscribers than Tidal, I believe. Definitely more than Cobas. So Deezer is the most subscribed French service, to the best of my knowledge. I'll say to the best of my knowledge to cover myself legally in case I get it wrong.
Okay, so show and tell.
Show and tell. So I'm going to have to describe what you're
You're
holding
going to have
up.
to
Right?
describe. What
Okay.
do you see?
I see a black box with a little light on it. It looks like a power supply brick that you would use to kind of interface between the wall and a device. There's it says topping on it. Okay, so this is going to be powering probably a DAC, I would think, because it won't. Well, it might be an amplifier. Okay, more show and tell coming up. We've got a silver box from topping, so it almost certainly is a power amplifier with just one switch on the front. It's got binding posts on the back, one set, so that means it's a monoblock. And it looks like it has 3 balanced inputs. Is that right, Srajan?
Uh-huh. And then I think, let's see whether it zooms in properly.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you've got the power in from the brick that we previously saw and a 12-volt trigger. And we've got low and high, so I'd imagine that's the voltage sensitivity of the power amplifier, I think.
Correct.
And a USB-C socket for firmware updates.
Correct.
All right, and it's small. It's like a half-width box?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, from the fact that it has that brick, the sort of laptop type switching power supply brick, what do we assume this is the amplifier type is?
I see. Normally I would say Class D, but this is topping.
Wouldn't we?
But topping, though, I think they might have gone Class AB with this.
It is Class AB. Now, before I set this down, you're very correct, sort of raising an eyebrow or two about
Or 3.
these, because, yes, there are 3 inputs. There are 3 XLR inputs
Right.
with a 6.3 mil
Phono jack,
version.
Yeah.
But since there is no volume control on there, why would you need 3 inputs? You would have to have 3 variable sources to make this work.
Well, I guess I don't.
If this wasn't integrated, it would make perfect sense.
It would,
and they
yes.
have an integrated that looks exactly like it, except it has a volume control in the middle.
Okay.
So I think they were just lazy. They repurposed the same chassis and maintained the 3 inputs.
Can you select them independently, those inputs?
Oh, absolutely. You do that in the front. By pressing this once, you keep toggling through the inputs. If you hold it a little bit longer, it switches the thing off.
Okay, so it would be quite useful if you wanted to side-by-side compare two preamps.
Yes. In that case, it would be useful.
Right, but not for the average person, even for the average audiophile. I don't think you need 3 balanced inputs on the back of your power amp. But never say never. There might be a use case that I'm not seeing.
Right. So the reason I got this, remember how last time we talked about 3D printed speakers?
Yes, we did. So you've got those 3D printed speakers
Okay,
here,
let's see.
and they have
back a little bit there. There it is. Right.
Okay, and they have. Is it? Remind me, it's an AM tweeter on top, isn't it?
Yeah, that's an AMT tweeter on top from Mandorf.
Okay.
If we take a closer look at this driver here, and I show this from the side.
Hang on, I need to explain this for the listeners. So we're talking about a mid-range driver?
This is a mid-range driver, but you see how brutally massive the surround is.
Yep.
It's basically like a miniature subwoofer.
Oh, okay.
Miniature, but it's the kind of driver that you would use as a subwoofer.
Right.
Now, because of that driver, that is a subwoofer in miniature, but in this speaker is being taken up to 5 kilohertz before it meets that little tweeter on top, right? The highest fundamental that a violin or a piano can play is below 4 kilohertz.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the rightmost key on the piano.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the tweeter only does overtones.
Okay.
And
so
that means that sort of massive looking driver is really a widebander. It does all the audible range from below 40 all the way up to 5 kilohertz.
Because 5 is pretty high for a mid-range driver, isn't it?
It's very high because usually your crossover will sit between 1 and 3 kilohertz.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Sort of smack in the region where our hearing is most critical.
Yes.
And that's where babies cry. They cry very high, which is why the mothers wake up in the middle of the night. It's like nature's sort of built-in safety valve, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because this particular speaker has a lot of warmth built in and chunkiness, because it also has 2 passive radiators on the sides, which is why it can go down well below 30 hertz. I was looking for an amplifier that would have power, because these are only 83 dB.
Yeah,
but that would have very, very high resolution and high power and very low noise. And what I used to have before were Encore 500 Class D amplifiers. And they were packaged by a company in the UK called Nord Acoustics.
Yep.
10 years old. Now there is a website that is called ASR.
Yes.
And you know what that stands for, right?
Audio Science Review. They love topping. They love topping over there. Love
And
it.
why do they love topping?
Because it measures well.
Exactly. This amplifier, the Topping B200, is the best measuring amplifier that they've ever had through their lab up until it showed up. On their point scale, it's like 120. And the first sort of high-end audio brand that they have reviewed in amplifiers is about 60 or 70 points out of the 120, right?
Are we talking about Synad here? Are these Synad scores?
Yeah. And signal-to-noise ratio plus, yes.
Plus THD, yeah.
Yes, so they claim that this has like 138 or 145. This is nearly impossible. I don't even know how that's possible. But it is so low that I thought, I've never had a topping. I've never tried a topping. So I thought, well, if my Encore amplifiers are 10 years old, something must have happened in the interim. Maybe I can get something that's even better. I want something that is very neutral, so something that measures superbly could just fit the bill.
But I have a question here, right? If it's the best measuring amplifier that they've ever had, does that, I don't know whether does it imply, suggest, or does it state explicitly that this will be the best sounding amplifier that has ever come across?
No. Amir is the one that runs the site and that did that review. Now, when he called it a review, I would completely disagree, because he doesn't render a single listening impression. And this amplifier is made to be heard. You can't review a car sitting in a parking lot and not driving it, even though you might be able to measure some of its parameters. But he doesn't actually listen to it, he just measures it. I usually wouldn't find that useful, but I wanted to know how this thing measures, and I wanted to know what its real power is. And Topping claimed 200 watts into 8 ohms and 200 watts into 4 ohms. It actually only measures about 120 into 8. It does measure 200 into 4, but into 2 ohms it's only 80 watts.
Okay.
So it's not an amplifier that is sort of very low impedance stable, which is because of that brick. That brick limits how much low impedance current it can basically swing, right? But it is Class AB, it is discrete, and it apparently has current and voltage feedback. Topping is very vague about getting specific in what the circuit actually is. But I must say that it really was, or is, because I bought them and I kept them, the next step up from these 10-year-old Class D amplifiers. It's extremely low noise. It is probably one of the lowest noise amplifiers that I could afford at that size that still fits on my desktop. That was another requirement. The amplifier had to be small, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it works so well also because these speakers don't really need any kind of warmth. They don't need any kind of extra bass.
Because they already have that already built in, right?
They have all of that. So all I want is really basically the mystical straight wire with
gain.
Lots of gain, right?
Right.
And how real that is and whether we would know if it bit us in the arse, we wouldn't. We don't really know what neutral is. But in the context of a system that is already chunky and robust, full-bodied, this is a really excellent amplifier. And they sell for 600 euros each, so 1,200 euros a pair. I got them from Audiophonics on a 15% discount, which they had at the time. And so I basically paid 1,000 and some, maybe 1,030 delivered. And for that, this is really an excellent amplifier. So now, how it would do in a big system with speakers that drop well below 4 ohms, and usually they tend to do that in the bass, right? They might do it between 50 and 80 hertz, where there's a lot of energy. How these will behave then, and whether you will hear that they compress, that I couldn't say. But on my desktop, I don't play that loud to begin with, right? So on my desktop, this really is a perfect amplifier.
Do you have any idea as to where it sort of sits in the hierarchy of amps that you have in your possession right now?
Not really, because I bought these specifically for the desktop, and I did not try them out in my other systems to see how they compare. My suspicion is as follows. My suspicion is that the Kinki amplifiers that I have an even better top end.
Right.
Because they have bandwidths out to 2.5 megahertz. Obviously, we don't hear that high, but they're direct coupled. They don't have any capacitors in the signal path, and that you can hear.
Right.
And I would also assume that my regular amplifiers probably are a little bit more controlled in the low bass. That's just a suspicion.
Right.
But my regular amplifiers wouldn't fit on the desktop, so it's academic.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, you want something that's for your office, right? So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I've always found, no, not always. I've often found that devices that have very good synad, especially at the more affordable end of the market, tend to sound a bit thin,
right,
and a bit reedy. And I'm really mainly talking about DACs here. Not amplifiers, but then again, if I really had to pick on amplifiers, things like the Blue Sound Node Edge, the Lingdorf TD-AI 1120, I was thinking about this the other day actually, they have great subwoofer integration, and I think you need to integrate subwoofers into a system in which that amplifier is working, A, to relieve it of bass efforts with the presumably two-way stand mount you'd be powering with. and also to sort of mask the fact that they don't sound as sort of fat and chunky as a comparably priced Class A/B amplifier. So I would put the WIM Ultra amp in that subset of thin sounding products. The Eversolo Play would fit in there as well. And yeah, I'm not saying all of those have low distortion because I don't really know, but at the more affordable end, that's what I tend to hear.
And this could very well be the case, that this is, in the big picture, a somewhat thin sounding amplifier, except that's exactly what my setup needed.
Yes, and you won't know because you've got this chunky sounding loudspeakers, right? So, but I guess if you put on a pair of speakers that were either closer to neutral or even thinner than neutral, then you'd almost certainly hear it if that were the case.
Yeah, and the reason I haven't done any of that is that I paid for these as an end user. I didn't buy these really to do a review. I did one, but I kept it purely, okay, I bought these for the desktop, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to make the extra effort and compare them to anything else.
Right. But the context is you bought them for a chunky sounding pair of speakers.
Exactly.
Right.
But I have to say I was pleasantly surprised that at that price, that Topping as a brand that's very popular over at Audio Science Review because they make $100 or $200 DACs that measure perfectly, and the conclusion could be, well, then you don't need anything else and nothing better beyond it exists because these are as perfect as they can possibly measure. That sort of puts the brand Topping off the radar of serious audiophiles, right? Because you sort of figure, okay, they know how to make stuff that measures good, but how good could it really sound for that price? And what do they have to do to make it measure this good? Lots of feedback, lots of whatever. So if one comes from that perspective, and I maybe had some of that sort of audiophile snobbery mentality relative to the brand, I was really pleasantly surprised. Now that said,
the power brick.
This does not really look attractive. In my case, I don't see them because they come with a very, very long
That's good, yes.
umbilical, right?
Yeah.
So mine actually sits on the floor behind the table where I never see it. But if this sat in a serious system on a shelf next to an amplifier where if you run it sideways, you have one cable coming out one side and one the other.
You kind of have to, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, because if you run it this way, what you're going to do?
Yeah,
you're going to look at the cable. It's not really something that looks classy or that you really want to look at. You have to sort of think about how do I best hide it? And I could see how some people would say, well, I prefer if they had built a power supply inside. Okay, point taken. But at $1,200 retail, what do you expect?
Yeah,
that's what I got on the Topping B200.
Well, I'm glad we talked about that kind of amplifier, and I'm glad I was talking about the Eversolo Play and the WIM Amp Ultra, because I've got a show and tell here. Hang on. All right, let's take the cover off. So you've got to describe this, Srajan, right from the very basics, as if the person at the other end obviously cannot see it. They can't. Let's see if I can get it in front of the camera.
I would say, well, it's a small two-way speaker with a soft dome tweeter and what looks like a flat cone or flattish kind of mid-range driver. I expect it to be about 4.5, maximally 5 inches. The box has sort of rounded over corners. It's painted yellow. It has a rear port with where the flare has sort of like sun ray kind of grooves in it.
Bit like the tweeter.
I can't see the model name. I would suspect maybe a Project.
No, you can see if I bring
it's a
it closer.
DALI. Is it a DALI?
It is a DALI loudspeaker, yes. This is a DALI loudspeaker. It's a little two-way. It's tiny.
And just the other day I was reading that the man who founded DALI is Mr. Lingdorf.
Correct.
I didn't know that. That's one of the many brands that he has launched.
So this is the speaker with its grill on, magnetically attached grill. It's kind of like a creamy beige. Which
Ivory color, something like that, yeah.
I mean, the yellow is called golden yellow, and it looks quite bright on the camera today because I've got the sun basically barreling into my eyes as we record this.
But it's really small.
But
it's
yes.
like a shoebox, like a size 10 shoebox.
It is. It's a very well. It's a small speaker. It's a muted yellow. You're correct. The driver is 4.5 inches, mid-bass driver. It's made of. Hang on, I've got my notes here because I need to make sure I don't mess this up. I'm pretty sure it's paper pulp and something else. It is paper and wood fiber. This mid-bass driver.
And it's not their typical red, because they have a lot of their cones have this sort of red tint, right?
So before I get into the specifics, actually, while we talk about that, I would suggest that this is DALI's attempt to make more of a sort of lifestyle affordable loudspeaker. I'll get to the price in a moment. But this definitely caught my attention because of the colours, because it's available in this colour. It's in something called chili blue. There's a caramel white, a walnut, and a black ash. But the blue and the yellow really popped for me. And I didn't buy these. I asked DALI to send me these. They were quite a while coming, but I got them in the end. The tweeter is 2.6 centimeters. It's an ultra light soft dome tweeter. I've only had them running for literally 20 minutes before I started recording with you today. So, but I do know that they only go down to 63 hertz, or rather they're 3 dB down to 63 hertz, which means, I guess for most, well, it depends on what you want to do with them, right? And it depends upon your exposure to other systems with more bass. So if you'd asked me 10 years ago, do these have enough bass? I would have said yes. But if you ask me today, especially in the context of my, let's say, the last few years of me listening to speakers with subs, and also this year especially big, expensive floor standers, I would say no, I cannot listen to these without a subwoofer. But that's in the context of my experiences, right? Which is why I say, if you've only ever listened to stand mounts, this might be fine for you.
Right.
Or if you're coming up from a sound bar, this would be great for you.
Or my wife would have had these on the desktop, and it would have been perfect, because she listened primarily to, soft piano music or some Baroque music while she was working, never very loud. That would have been all that she needed.
Right. So at the moment, it's only first impressions. I can tell you the tweeter is not zingy at all. Not at all. It's quite soft. It's a bit mellow, as I've experienced with DALI speakers in the past.
Okay.
That's my general sort of take on their top end. It's kind of mellow, and it will endure quite happily thin, sharp sounding or sharper sounding or readier sounding amplifiers. So downstairs I've got this currently hooked up to an Eversolo Play, and it sounds fine, hooked up to my TV and whatever. I haven't really dug deep on it yet, but I know it's a 4 ohm load nominally, and it's 83 dB. So
that is lowish.
It's low. You're going to need, I think, one of these Class D smaller amps, right? But I think the Eversolo, the Wim, the Blue Sound Edge, even the Lingdorf TDAI 1120, which is still my favorite for integrating subwoofers, they would all be a good fit for this. Now, the other great thing about these loudspeakers, and I'll explain why I've got them in a minute, they sell for €338 a pair.
Wow.
So they are within reach of many, many people. Now, I asked for these to be sent to me because I'm going to make another one of my kick-ass €1,000 hi-fi system videos, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to make a system, and I wanted to pick something. Well, I kind of knew that the amplifier would eat most of the budget, which it has. I can't avoid that. It's becoming harder and harder to keep it under 1,000. I might not. I've got the streamer already. I've got the speakers. I'm waiting for the amplifier. It's not going to be the Wim or the Eversolo. I've got something very specific in mind for these, for the reasons actually that I explained in our previous segment about the topping. So I wanted something that kind of looks appealing to the average punter, right? But also, I'm also going to do something to tackle, how do I put this politely? Tackle the cope that seems to be coursing through the veins of the hi-fi world, especially online with comment sections, right? In that, all you need is a pair of these, a nice amplifier, like an affordable amplifier, and that's it. Well, all you need is going to be very different to what I need. And this idea that this kind of system could compete with something selling for 2, 3, 4 times the price. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to do the side-by-side comparison. I am not confident that this is going to hold up. But you never know. You just don't know until you do it, right? But I'm going to get a pair of more expensive speakers. I'm going to get a more expensive amplifier, more expensive streamer, maybe a $3,000 system. Does this €1,000 system compete with a $3,000 system? We will see. Is all I'll say. Anyway, that's me out on that one, Srajan. Back to you.
Well, back to you, because you haven't given us the name yet. What is this one called?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's so stupid of me, isn't it? It's called the KUPID with a K.
The KUPID, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
That's cute with a K.
Yeah. God, I got everything apart from the key bit. It's on my notes as well, right at the top. I missed it. So, okay, right. Back to you properly this time, Srajan.
Last time, we talked about 3D printed loudspeakers. We just saw it just for a moment, the one from Virtual Hi-Fi. Well, 6 years ago, I reviewed the first one that I knew was 3D printed, except it wasn't printed from PETG, which is what Virtual Hi-Fi is using, and which is what those transparent recyclable water bottles are made out of, PETG.
Yes.
That other speaker was made out of 0.2 millimeter glass spheres and nylon.
Okay.
So you could not use a generic 3D printer from an office supply and print this out at home. It's very specialized equipment. And it was from a company called Node Audio, who are based out of Cambridge in the UK. And the speaker looked very similar to the... I wrote down what... The Fujitsu Eclipse. Remember the Fujitsu Eclipse?
Of course, I love those things. Yeah,
it's
the
like
whole range.
Sort of like an egg-shaped speaker on a stand.
Loved it. Fantastic speaker, yeah.
Now, the Node Audio version is called Helixer. I reviewed it 6 years ago. It still sells. It at the time sold for £30,000.
Oof.
A small speaker with a flat radiator, small 4-inch mid-range, and a tweeter on top, sitting on a round baffle, flat baffle, and around the baffle you had an air gap. Behind that baffle sat the woofer, whose magnet was mounted into the baffle. The rear radiation of that woofer was firing out through that air gap.
Okay.
And then the front radiation of that driver fired down the long axis of the spheroid enclosure, bounced back off the bottom, and now came back through a spiral transmission line, and then exited the front together with the rear radiation through that oval gap. So the inside woofer was probably not bigger than 5 1/4. I don't have the exact measurements anymore. A small woofer, but because it was loaded into they call it a helix, a helical transmission line, it went a lot lower in the bass than you would give it credit for. Fit and finishing was out of this world. The two men that run the company are industrial designers, very much like Anthony Meze is at Meze Audio, which is why those headphones look so ultra cool. And the acoustic consultant that they use, his name is Christian Ellis, of a company called CE Electroacoustics. And he has also collaborated with Q Acoustics.
Okay.
On their loudspeakers, and with Sound Chaos, which are loudspeakers I've reviewed a lot out of Switzerland. And then the company that they work with are called ARCC Innovations. It's a very high-tech research facility in Cambridge who also have their own shop. And that's where they can get these 3D printed cabinets made that have a spiral transmission line inside.
I see. Okay. Right.
Okay, so that was 6 round moons ago. Okay, today is the last day of the Ascot Hi-Fi show in the UK.
Sunday?
Started yesterday, ends tonight. Yesterday they introduced 2 new models.
Okay.
Called the Atom 525 and the Atom 650. Basically, we're looking at a very slim, rear-leaning, floor-standing speaker that's covered in tautly stretched fabric, has a very shiny, probably stainless steel, I call it a skull cap, which is sort of just the top. It's kind of sort of tear-shaped or like bow tie shaped, which means that the front is wider than the back. It sort of narrows around the back. It has an MTM array on the top, like a Diapolito mid-range, Tweeter mid-range. They look to be about 4.5 inches big, the mid-ranges. And that's all you see. But on the inside, once again, they have either a 5.25 inch woofer for the Atom 525, which is the monitor, and a 6.5 inch woofer for the Atom 650, which is the floor-standing version. This time, that woofer sits all the way on the top of the cabinet, fires out a slot in the front, right above the MTM array, and then again, fires down, and then it spirals up through an expanding, no, it's not, it is expanding, it's an expanding transmission line. And then it comes out the top where it mixes with the radiation, the direct radiation. Now, because this speaker, this Atom 525 and 650 is so new, we don't have complete specs yet. We have pricing, and the pricing looks to be $13K for the monitor, $18K for the floor stander, $1.7K a pair for the stands on the monitor.
Right.
And when the monitor sits on the stand, it looks identical to the floor stander, minus a small gap.
Okay.
So it's not a traditional stand with a metal plinth and a top and a bottom plate. It just continues the speaker all the way to the floor. It looks really, really good. What else do I have? I have the basic specs of 97 centimeters tall. So it's not even a meter tall, the floor stander. And it is 28.5 centimeters wide, which is really quite narrow, and 36 centimeters deep. So it's a compact speaker that will probably have bandwidth that is surprising for what you're looking at. And considering that it's a small company, the fit and finish shown in the photos, and that I remember from the Hilixer, is on the level of a B&O. And in fact, the look reminds me very much of Bang & Olufsen.
Okay.
Because it combines high-gloss metal with fabric and a very sort of stylish appearance.
I think your cat has something to say about this speaker, Srajan.
Yeah, he woke up. This might be the day where I can finally show him off. Right now he doesn't want to be caught, but maybe later.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I can see that, well, you can probably see, everybody can see that...
The sun is finally getting to you.
I picked the worst time of day to sit in front of the gap between the blinds on the outside of my windows here. Anyway, we're going to plough on regardless. I've got another show and tell for you, Srajan. I'm going to remove the cables because they can knock the microphone and that sounds awful. So again, you're going to describe what I'm holding up to the camera. I'll try and...
Okay, I can actually tell what that is. So this is...
Don't tell us what it is first of all. Tell us what
so
kind of thing.
We're looking at a headphone.
Yep.
It's an open back headphone that has a perforated ends. It looks like metallized plastic, possibly metal. The ear cups are sort of oval shaped. They are clearly planars. I would say they are planar magnetics.
They are.
They have a metal or plastic bridge beneath which is a suspended headband that is like perforated leather or pleather. And from the industrial design, I would have to say this must be a HiFiMAN.
It absolutely is a HiFiMAN. This is the brand new Edition XV headphone. They did not send them to me. I bought this pair. And there's quite a story behind how I arrived at these. Before I tell that story, and before I tell you more about these headphones, Srajan, I need to ask you a question, right? What appears to be a very simple question, which might not be for some people, and that is, what is the most important quality of a headphone?
Comfort.
I would agree. Good now. So, these are as you say, open back, planar magnetic. They feature a new thinner driver than the predecessor. The predecessor was called the Edition XS. This is the XV. So this new Neo Super Nano driver is 40% thinner than the 1 micrometer driver that was in the Edition XS, right?
Okay.
And then there's a magnet system here that's been upgraded for reduced turbulence, because obviously the air moves in and out. And obviously when the air hits a magnet, there's going to be turbulence surrounding that magnet. These are 92 dB sensitive.
Does that mean that they're more sensitive than the one that they replace because the diaphragm is now thinner and lighter, presumably?
I think it's about the same, but I could be wrong. I didn't really hone in on that. I honed in on the next one, right? The 12 ohm nominal impedance. Because that means if we're looking for like an 8 times ratio from output impedance of our source device to the input impedance of the headphones, our source device cannot have an output impedance of more than 1.5 ohms before we start to get possible wonky frequency response from the headphone, because we want that 8 times multiplier, roughly, right? These are 452 grams in weight, and that is really, really important, I think. But, actually, I'll give you the price as well. 400 euros. Wow. Now, the predecessor were, and probably still are, selling for about 250. Now, I started with those, with the Edition XS, because I saw a couple of YouTube videos saying these are the best things available right now in the head-fi space for this kind of money, and I thought, I'm going to try them. 250, I'll take a punt. So I bought the Edition XS. Now, the Edition XS does not have a suspended headband like these. It has a more sort of what you call old school headband, like the headphones that I'm wearing right now, the Sonys. So just one piece with some padding, right? Mm-hmm. And I got the Edition XS, they arrived, I put them on, they sound incredible. The level of clarity for the money is astonishing. The layer separation is fantastic. The sub bass is really good. But after 20 minutes of use, just 20 minutes, I would get a pain on the top of my head, right? Yeah. But not only that. Because the Edition XS, the predecessor of these, they have similarly shaped ear cups. Mm-hmm. So where the ear cup would meet my neck, sort of just below the ear, I would get pressure points there. And also, weirdly, like I had to wear the Edition XS at the minimum retraction of the headband adjustment. So everybody else would either have to, if you had, my head's pretty big, but I wouldn't say it's enormous. But if you've got a small head, forget it. It's only for like large and extra large heads. This one's a bit more forgiving in that respect. But
isn't your carotid running down there?
The what, sorry?
Like the carotid artery, isn't that running down there somewhere? Like very close where those headphones hit
possibly.
You, right?
Yeah. So it's also the lymph nodes are here as well. You know, when you kind of get sick, you can feel those sometimes. So I was getting more pain actually there than on top of my head. So even though those headphones sounded absolutely fantastic, I thought, no, I cannot live with these. Can't live with them because even though they sound great, they're uncomfortable. And I didn't see that mentioned very often in the videos that I'd watched or the reviews that I'd kind of read as well, or just skim read. But then one of my patrons let me know. He's like, hey, John, because I made a video about this for Patreon. And one of the commenters said, oh, did you know that HiFiMAN have just released a successor this week? I was like, what, have they? I didn't know that because it's so new. So I sent the XS back and bought the XV. So I'm down another 130 euros, right? So these are, like I say, 400 euros. But because of the suspended headband, these are far more comfortable than the XV. I don't really want to say how they compare in terms of sound quality because I didn't have the two side by side because the XV had gone back before, the XS had gone back before the XV arrived. but I still hear the similar sort of qualities from these as I heard from the predecessor.
How about the height adjustment? Have they modified it?
Yeah, so the height adjustment, I think now would encompass medium-sized heads, because I have to extend these out a little bit now to fit them on my head, whereas the XS, I had to bring them all the way down, clunk, like this, to get them to fit. So now I have to push them out maybe to there. I say there, obviously the listeners won't know where there is, but like maybe 3 or 4 stops on the adjustment band. There's a bit of swivel in the band. I mean, the build quality is not amazing, but I wouldn't expect...
400, right?
$400. The build quality on the XS I thought was worse. When I got them out of the box, I was like, oh, this is a bit creaky, a bit ew. But these are better, but the suspended headband makes all the difference. So this is a very, very good sounding, affordable headphone. And what have I run it off? I've run it off just integrated amplifiers, actually. I've run it off a Rotel integrated. Sounded pretty good. I'm not sure what the output impedance is on that integrated, but I've also run it off something else. I can't remember what that was. I've been changing gears so often downstairs.
And how about the cables? Are they single or dual entry? And are they like 3.5 mil?
Good question. Yes. Okay. Let's look about the cable. So the cable is sorry, the clanking, the termination is hitting my plastic chair. So it's a dual entry system. So it's not single entry, and so they're up. 3.5 mil, and they go to 3.5 mil at this end, at the business end. There's no balanced cable in the box, but I wouldn't expect that for this kind of money.
Not at that price, no.
One omission, which I thought was surprising, was a travel case, because I did get a travel case with the XS, but that was sent to me separate to the XS's box. I think the supplier, the retailer, obviously had a stack of cases and a stack of boxes and just sent them out. So there's no case with this, which is disappointing when we factor in how Meze supply cases with their €400 headphones. But this is a different sound to the Meze, because it's mainly because it's planar probably. But I think this is a proper bargain without the discomfort gotchas that I think plague the XS. So yeah, again, HiFiMAN Edition XV. €400.
Now, if it sounded kind of sort of similar to the ones that you sent back, that you spent some time with listening, would I be correct assuming that in terms of the type of sound or the class of sound, that this falls more into like the transparent, quick, lit up, energetic?
No? It doesn't, because I remember owning a pair of HE1000s about 10 years ago even. And I remember them sounding light, breezy, fast, and a bit bright. And I like that because it gives you that high transparency, but there isn't a lot of meat, there isn't a lot of weight to the sound. Whereas there is with these, which is what was so surprising for me. I was put them on and go, these aren't as bright as I was expecting. There's more weight in the bass than I was expecting, because I thought they would just be kind of the sort of usual HiFiMAN sound, and they're absolutely not. No way.
Brilliant.
So they might be an outlier in the HiFiMAN range. I don't know, because I've not heard any of the others of the modern range. So, excuse me, sorry. So I don't really know. But I think, they're a solid record. Highly recommended, Srajan. Highly recommended. Oh,
Two
God.
thumbs up.
Listen to me. Awful. I think they're very, very good indeed. Are they going to be the best €400 headphones available? No, but I guess it depends on whether you're a cat person or a dog person, because if you're a cat person, you might prefer dynamic driver headphones. You want that kind of slightly slower but fatter, chunkier sound that's a bit more rolled off in the top, but not quite as transparent and not quite as good at separating the musical layers. So it depends on what you're really looking for.
Right.
Although I don't mean to imply that cat people like dynamic drivers. I'm just trying to say, it's like Ken Ball said this. He's like, you're either a cat person or a dog person, It's not like the cats are better than dogs or dogs are better than cats. It's just like different qualities for each one, right?
So, my last one is a product that I have seen online for at least a year, possibly longer.
Okay.
but it was not available to you and me because we live in the West. If we were living inside China, we could have bought it a long time ago.
Okay.
Now, do you know the brand of the amplifiers that are my favorites, that I've had for many years, that I'm listening to in both of my systems?
Oh, goodness me. You always ask me, like, what's your favorite this? I'm not your keeper.
You ought to know.
Oh, man.
You ought to keep track.
Hang on, let me think. Amplifiers, favorites. I know you really like the NLAM stuff, but that's probably not powerful enough for what you're doing right now.
No, it's not. So think Chinese, think silver.
Kinki.
Yeah, there you go.
There we are.
Okay. So Kinki Studio, probably unbeknownst to most people in the West that don't know that they also have a Chinese website, which is kinkistudio.com, whereas the Western website is kinki-studio.com.
Okay.
Gets you to a different website with different product.
Different pricing?
That I don't know because I don't read Chinese.
Okay.
So I don't know what it says on the Chinese side.
Okay.
But, Kinki Studio have flagship level product. There's a 790 preamp and there's a 791 monoblock that only sells in China. The monoblock is 600 watts per channel.
Oh, wow.
In class AB.
Oof.
And it's using 4 monster toroids.
Wow.
Just
okay.
on the lower level. And then like Goldmund, the entire circuit board floats above the power supply on 4 stanchions, which are like vibration isolated, decoupled from the base. Goldman calls it mechanical grounding. And I believe that the Kinki engineer, who to us in the West is known as Mr. Ivan Liu, I think the Chinese call him something completely different, but in the West we call him Ivan Liu. He is very familiar with and fond of Goldmund amplifiers, the Swiss kind of sound. Wide bandwidth, DC coupled, class AB, a very sort of lit up all over energetic sound. That high-end product, I don't even know what it would have to sell for in the West. And it is so big and so heavy that shipping alone is probably a disaster. So they have never even tried to promote it. However, the man who runs Vinshine Audio, Alvin Shi, out of Singapore, he has 2 products already, which he calls Vinshine X. And the X stands for collaboration with.
Yes.
Like in sports, they have, team versus team, team X team. So he has collaborated with Lai Audio for a network switch, and with Kinki Studio on a DC filter / AC conditioner, which I have 2 of, which I bought for my system. Now the 3rd product he's coming out with under this collaboration is again with Kinki Studio. And it's now taking the Dazzle integrated amplifier that up until now was only available in the Chinese market. It upgrades certain parts. And we don't yet know what the price is going to be, because that product will be premiered at the Singapore Hi-Fi show coming up in October. But this is what we do know. It's a 300 watt per channel, class AB into 8 ohms integrated amplifier that goes to 560 watts into 4 ohms. It weighs 33 kilos, which in UK currency is 5 stones. It's using 6 lateral Exicon MOSFETs from Exicon per half wave. So that's 6 and 6, 12 per side, class AB, fully balanced, and then another 12 on the other side, so 24 altogether. And the word I just snuck in there makes it different from everything else Kinki have done so far. This is a truly balanced front-to-back amplifier, whereas all the Kinki stuff up until now was single-ended. Even though it had balanced inputs, but those converted on the inside, and everything on the inside is single-ended. This is true, fully balanced. It has 3 RCA inputs, 2 XLR inputs, and 1 direct input. on RCA. So you can bypass the preamp and run this as a stereo amplifier.
Gotcha.
It also has a switchable DC filter, because this again is a direct coupled amplifier. So it would be sensitive if you have any kind of DC current on your mains. So if that's the case, you hit the switch and everything goes silent. What else can I say? Okay, like the expensive separates that we have never seen in the West, this is using a 4 centimeters thick base plate, and the entire circuitry is suspended from that. And beneath that bridge, you have two really, really big toroidal transformers, so it's true dual mono. Now, just the other day, I was reading a review of a Dan D'Agostino entry-level integrated. Now, for Dan D'Agostino, it's entry-level. It's called
18 grand.
Exactly. It's called the Pendulum.
Yeah.
It's class AB. It's half the power of this one, the one that's called the Dazzle from Kinki. It's half the weight, and it's probably about 3.5 to 4 times the money. We don't have a final price yet. I've seen prices on the non-export model on Alibaba, so I'm not even sure whether those prices are legit or gray market. But I'm sure that this will not cost more than double of what the existing monoblocks that I have in my system cost. And those are about $3,600 or thereabouts for the pair. I would be very surprised if this Dazzle sold for more than €6,500 euros. I can't confirm it yet because Alvin hasn't released it. But it's definitely going to be well below 10,000, which makes it half the price of the D'Agostino.
This is interesting, actually, from a personal perspective, because obviously I own the Marantz Model 10, right? Now, when you said 33 kilos, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how much the Model 10 weighs, but it's a Class D amplifier, right? So for it a Class D to weigh that much, but my goodness, well, like, what is inside this thing? Like moon rocks or something? I don't know. But it
must have a linear power supply, right? Which is why it has these big transformers in there to give it the weight, or no?
It has a linear power supply for the preamp stage, I think, or the phono inputs. But it's not for... I don't think it's for the Class D modules itself. I don't think... I mean, they're sort of built in collaboration with Eigentact, but Purify, but they're not Eigentact. But I'm just trying to draw the sort of kind of the weight parallel, because I had to move the amplifier the other day, and it's hernia inducing. You know, you've really got to be very careful, bend with the knees. You know, be very, very. It's a 2-person lift. If you're going to put it into a rack safely, it's two persons. But one thing this is a psychological trick. This is just me, right? When you've got something that heavy, you really feel that you've got value for money. You're like, yeah, I paid a lot of money for this, and I can feel it. And one thing that I don't want to give this away quite so early, but like when I get a really expensive product and it's just like an empty metal box almost, that I have to fight that mentally. I have to kind of fight against it so that it doesn't color my perception of that product.
Well, I would say I have the same issue.
Right.
I mean, just the other day, I got a small DAC that was about literally the size of a small paperback.
Right.
And no taller. And still, you open it up, and half the circuit board is empty. The box is half empty. Now, it sounds really good.
Yeah.
That's the stumper. But you do kind of sort of feel like, well, they could have made the box half the size. It would have been full, and it would have been more honest. But obviously the issue that I can see is why maybe Kinki Studio hasn't commercialized the really expensive separates that are even heavier than this, is that, and tell me whether you have a similar experience, but you and I are both in the EU. And so when we receive product that comes in from outside the EU, there's always VAT to deal with, right? Now, I don't know how they manage, but invariably things that are coming in from China, in big boxes that weigh a goodly amount, they slip through the VAT process at a very low amount. And I get a small box from America that weighs hardly anything, and customs opens it up and challenges the value on it and is raising the VAT. Now, with something that weighs 33 kilos, that must obviously come in a really well-designed shipping carton to make sure that it survives the trip intact. There's no way you're going to be able to slip that through the usual Chinese, oh, it must be cheap because it's from China and it comes in a box without a label on it, without a name on it. This is going to be expensive to import. So this is going to change the whole sort of, it's coming from China, so it's cheap. It changes that attitude. That's not going to fly with customs on this one.
I don't think so, but I also think it has a knock-on effect throughout the entire supply chain. So with distributors and with dealers who have to kind of move these things around, you know, like if you've got 3 of them, you're going to need a forklift or something like that, like a very, very strong trolley or strong staff. So it does move the needle a bit in that respect, but it won't. It's not the first 33 kilo amplifier to ever come into Europe. Not. But I guess at that sort of price, yes, if it is 6 or 7 grand, that will raise some eyebrows. I mean, this is the other thing. I mean, before I mentioned the Marantz, right, is that Kinki doesn't have the brand reputation and recognition and heritage that Marantz has, right?
Correct.
So it has to sell cheaper. It has to.
Yeah.
In order to generate sales. If it was the same price as the Marantz, it's going to struggle, even though it is. I know it's a different class of amplifier, but yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum. I mean, I guess will you get one, Srajan, eventually, one of these things? Yeah, okay.
I published a preview after Alvin confirmed that yes, he's going to send me a sample.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's also the reason why Kinki Studio got Alvin at Vinshine Audio involved, because it's sort of this between direct sales. Yes. Obviously, Alvin has to make a living, so there's a layer of margin involved for him. But he basically becomes like a global distributor. Everything ships out of Singapore. You pay in Singapore currency, which is lower than the US dollar or the euro or the British pound. And he has figured out a way how to build in VAT on his end. So you can prepay it so that when it comes to your door, you know, you don't have to pay COD or pay FedEx before they will actually deliver it to you. That can already be built into the price, because he knows how to do this now through his web shop.
So this is what I drill into every Chinese company wanting to send me a product. I'm saying, do not underdeclare it. And also, it's strongly advisable to pay any import tax and duties with the courier company before it leaves your loading dock, so that the German customs don't snag it. Because if they snag it, it's a real ball ache to untangle, as Eversolo found out quite recently. And you know, it's just a mess. So yeah, if you can get it prepaid, that takes a lot of the pain out of importing something, because it should sail straight through, no problem. But if it's not, and you have to pay it to, well, in my case, to Germany or to Portugal, that becomes sometimes very complicated. You know, sometimes it's just, I've got to pay the guy literally at my door delivering the product to the box. And if he's in Germany, I've got to pay him cash. And I have to have the exact money. So if I don't, I've got to round up.
Right, exactly.
So I do keep cash around for that very purpose. I keep it close to the front door, and just in case I get... Yesterday, I got door stopped for €12 on a record, which cost me €40. It's only a 10-inch single, right? So the prices really balloons quickly. But yeah, so the import shenanigans, which, as I guess many Americans are now finding out, is it's complicated, you know, and it's costly. And yeah, with the tariffs and all that kind of thing, you know, yeah.
And of course, on top of buying Chinese-made expensive product, as a consumer, you have to feel confident that should something happen, you're being taken care of. And having somebody established like Vinshine Audio, who has an excellent reputation for pre- and post-sales support, and on top of that, now does a lot of YouTube videos where he will actually take the top off and he will talk you through the circuit. Yeah. I think that's a value added that most Chinese manufacturers that sell over, you know, eBay or Alibaba or Amazon, some of those platforms, they don't have that part of the equation covered. Yes, you can get stuff for very, very little, for a good price. But then if something happens, then what do you do? Who do you send it back to? Who is going to service it?
Well, I had this situation recently with NLAM. Excuse me, my little AMP23R developed a fault. I emailed Soo in South Korea. He said, it sounds like the firmware's gone a bit wonky. We'll need to rewrite it. You'll need to send it back to us. Now, this is a small amplifier that weighs like 7 kilos. And it cost me €70 to send it. And when it comes back, that's what I'm really worried about. Because who's on the hook for the import duty?
You will be.
I will be, right? So if he declares it at full value, which I hope he doesn't, I'm going to have to pay, whatever the percentage of the full value is. And this is a $6,000 amp? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
in Ireland, it'd be at 23% VAT. So that'd be €1,500.
Yeah. It's nine
on something that you've already paid for.
Yeah, so it's a thorny one, isn't it? So this is the thing people have to think about. It's not just the cost of returning something, it's who pays for the duty when it comes back. Now, I know there are some ways of managing like a warranty return, but if German customs get a box that's coming into the EU and it says warranty return, they'll ignore those words. They'll just treat it as a new product coming in because they know it's a trick that people have used in the past and have abused it. So unless you've got paperwork to show that your export is temporary, which I don't, I just send it through DHL, out it goes, and then it will come back. So, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Which is another mountain that I guess Chinese or Asian manufacturers have to climb, even when selling through somebody like Vinshine Audio, because it's Vinshine that has to kind of manage the return and whatever. I mean, don't Vinshine have a sort of an office or a representative in the USA, or is that no longer?
That I don't know. I believe they had somebody during their Denefrips days, and I think it was primarily for warranty servicing and repairs.
It's super important, right?
Yeah.
Because I didn't ask Soo at NLM, hey, don't you have a German guy that can do this? Like I can send it to... because it died in Portugal, I had to bring it back in my suitcase and then send it from here because I knew it would be much cheaper to send from Germany than from Portugal. Okay, that's it, isn't it, Srajan? We've reached the end, and I'll sign off and say thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll chat again soon.
Same here. Cheers.